In the heart of 18th century Moscow, amidst swirling snow and the dim glow of lanterns, stood the imposing estate of a woman whose name would curdle the blood of generations. This wasn't just a story of wealth and nobility. It was the birth of a legend steeped in darkness. This is the tale of Darya Saltykova, the Bloody Baroness. Behind the grand facade of her family's manor, a chilling stillness held sway. The chandeliers in the ballroom hung like skeletal remains, and the portraits of her ancestors seemed to watch with cold, dead eyes. Darya Nikolaevna Saltykova, born into one of Russia's most ancient and powerful families, was destined for a life of privilege. From a young age, however, a shadow lingered behind her vacant eyes. She was married young, a strategic alliance typical of the era. But her husband's sudden death just a few years later left her a very young, very wealthy, and very powerful widow, alone in her vast mansion. Something within Darya began to twist. The immense power she inherited, absolute control over hundreds of serfs, began to corrupt her completely. The servants, who were legally her property, soon learned that a simple mistake, like spilling a cup of tea, was not just an accident, it was a death sentence. What began as sharp rebukes and cruel punishments spiraled into an insatiable appetite for brutality. The grand halls of the Saltykova estate became a theater of horror. Darya would fly into rages, using anything at hand: a rolling pin, a log, a riding crop, to unleash her fury upon her staff. Particularly the young women, survivors whispered of unspeakable acts, of victims being doused with boiling water in the freezing cold, starved, or beaten for hours on end. The manor cellars, once used for storing wine and preserves, were transformed into private torture chambers by candlelight. Darya's shadow would loom over her victims as she devised new ways to inflict pain. She would perform these monstrous acts with a chilling calm, sometimes even whispering prayers while clutching a whip, blurring the lines between piety and perversion. The grounds of this estate became a hidden graveyard. Under the cover of darkness, loyal servants would drag the lifeless bodies of their friends and family into the snow-covered earth, burying the evidence of their mistress's depravity. It's said that Darya herself would visit her private chapel afterward, kneeling before golden icons and weeping, a bizarre performance of penance for sins she had every intention of repeating. For years, fear kept the survivors silent. Darya's wealth and connections made her seem untouchable. Dozens of petitions were filed against her, but they were ignored or dismissed. Her powerful relatives at court ensured that the whispers from the servant class never reached the ears that mattered, but the sheer volume of death could not be hidden forever. Finally, two brave serfs, whose wives had been murdered by Saltykova, risked everything. They bypassed the corrupt local authorities and smuggled a petition directly to the newly crowned Empress of Russia, Catherine the Great. Catherine, an enlightened monarch who aimed to bring law and reason to her empire, was horrified by the accusations. She ordered a full investigation. When imperial soldiers arrived at the Saltykova estate, they were met with Darya's feigned politeness and cool denial. But the truth was buried just beneath the frozen soil. Investigators unearthed dozens of bodies from shallow graves around the property. They discovered estate records that listed an impossibly high number of young women as having died from illness or simply fled. The trial was a sensation, terrified but resolute. Witnesses came forward, recounting stories of unimaginable cruelty. Their testimonies painted a portrait of a sadistic monster hiding behind a noble title. Despite her claims of innocence, the evidence was overwhelming. The investigators confirmed at least 38 definite murders, but the true number was believed to be well over 100. Found guilty, Darya Saltykova was stripped of her noble titles and her name. Catherine the Great, and willing to implement the death penalty, devised a special punishment. Darya was subjected to a civil execution. She was chained to a platform in Moscow's Red Square for an hour, a sign hanging from her neck that read, "This woman tortured and murdered." The crowd jeered and spat, finally giving a voice to the suffering she had caused. After her public humiliation, she was condemned to life imprisonment in the dark, underground cell of a remote convent. For over 30 years, Darya Saltykova lived in total darkness, a ghost in a stone box, cut off from the world she once terrorized. In the silence of her cell, it's said she descended into madness, whispering to the phantoms of her victims until her last breath. She died alone, her hands still clutching a rosary. Even today, the ruins of her estate are said to be haunted. Locals tell stories of a ghostly woman in white, wandering the grounds where so many innocent souls were lost. The legend of Darya Saltykova serves as a chilling reminder that power without compassion is the most dangerous poison of all. Power is only holy until it tastes blood. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales from the darkest corners of history. See you next time.